Hello and welcome everyone to our highlight show. I'm Nazi Paikidze and I'm here with Grandmasters Yasser, Seirawan and Peter Svidler. We had another day of a lot of fighting chess.
Yeah, dramatic, but let's take a look at the standings.
After 2 rounds, we have a sole leader, Alireza with 1.5 points. Then 8 players are sharing second at 50%, and only Levon Aronian is at -1.
Alireza had an amazing game today with young Duda. Let's take a look at the highlights. Well, this has been a remarkable game between Duda and Alireza. I mean, from the start, Duda was completely outplayed. Let's be very, very clear. And it looked to us like Alireza was going to play masterpiece. Then, in time trouble.
Yeah, Firouzja had a long-term positional advantage, but
Right.
then when he played c5 and allowed White's bishop to come back into the game.
And most importantly, Queen c7, Queen b7. Duda
came back into the game once
Right.
once the Queen was allowed to nest on b7, and at some point we even began worrying for Alireza. He left himself very low on time, didn't take a number of forced repetitions, I'm sure he saw.
Right.
But then after the time control, he kind of recollected himself and is now playing pretty precisely. Looks like he's going to hold, to my eyes. And that was it. That game ended in a draw, very eventful one, very full of content, but in the end, ending peacefully.
Another game full of content, Peter.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the game between Nuribek Abdusattorov playing the white pieces against the reigning world champion Gukesh. Nuribek went for this bishop g5 line in the Italian, which is the absolute sharpest way of playing the Italian these days, and was met on move 9 by a very rare idea here by Gukesh. It's a move that is almost unknown. Most people prepare and play g5 without including bishop g4, or perhaps play bishop g4 having played g5. This is neither. This is keeping all the options open. It's also a gambit. Queen b3 actually forces black to give up either b7 or f7 pawns. It will be interesting to see what Gukesh has here, but Nuribek perhaps understandably decides not to test it, goes a4, and he said in an interview after the game that he got tricked by the move order slightly because he had this idea from black. But on his screen at home, black always included g5 early, and as he found out after he played a4 and b4, black is absolutely not forced to play g5 here altogether. You can just swing the knight over to g6, and white pretty much never wants to take on f6 because that gives black a very nice source of counterplay along the open g-file. And by move 16, black is extremely comfortable here. Black has very nicely positioned knights on g6 and h5 coming into f4. And a bishop on a7, which eventually Nuribek even decided to further improve by playing d4, d5 here. And we started feeling as if Gukesh might actually be taking control. And a number of crucial moments happened around this point. After f5, Gukesh had the option of playing e5, cd5, f5, aiming for immediate, very strong play in the center, e4, knight d3. Starting to look a bit like a Sicilian, like a Najdorf with a bishop on a7 for some reason. And white kind of needs to play c5 and g4, which I think would have been very difficult to find over the board. The position remains a mess, but instead of that, Gukesh played queen d7 and followed it up after white found a very important resource of going knight g1, knight e2, and finally doing something about this dominating knight on f4. The move b5 in particular shows that Gukesh is not really restricted by the normal ideas in the position. He's also finding ways to play it that are entirely his own. Bishop b6, knight e2, takes, and now c6, c5, another move which I think many people wouldn't even consider, sealing off your own bishop on b6. But even this is kind of tricky for white. And here I think Nuribek, realizing that he is struggling to equalize, he went for a very concrete plan. He took on a6 and instantly played f2, f4. A move which is not without its own risks, but is a very good realization that you can't really defend this passively. The bishop on h2 needs to be in the game. Black could still pose white some problems, but once this very nice pawn sacrifice with e4, e5 was allowed, leading to a position where, despite black having a healthy extra pawn in the center, white has a passer on d5, very active pieces. The rooks are about to enter the black position via the b file. And somewhere around this point, players kind of both realized that black has nothing, and mass simplifications followed, with a draw being the result.
Thank you, Peter. Daniel Dayak, boy, talk about coming back. He lost in day one, but today he played a masterpiece, but then let things slip in the end.
It's quite dramatic, so.
Right.
Rook h8.
Now g5 is the only winning move, which he played instantly.
Wow. Instantly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And next we're just bringing the king closer. King f3.
Yeah, from now it's not difficult anymore. Just g6 rook g8, we don't even need to care about the e-pawn anymore, I don't think.
And you can set the body language, they both know.
Yep.
This is game over.
G6, rook g8 on white's agenda, meeting e2. Any moment, e3, e2 is by end as it resigns.
Wow, this rook endgame was a thriller.
It turned out to have more drama than expected. Another remarkable comeback was produced by Maxine today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Christian asked him whether he felt that was one of his better sides, converting small advantages into full points, and he kind of brushed it off. But I really do think he's one of the absolute best in the world at doing exactly that, just creating small problems for your opponent until maybe one day he cracks. And Wesley did eventually start making mistakes today. Let's take a look. We began the day, we saw the Ruy Lopez appearing on the board, and we started talking about MVL being the last sort of soldier standing on the white side of the actual endgame. And the way he wins those games, I think, is very reminiscent to the very similar to the way, if he does win, which seems extremely likely right now. Fabi was very confident that this is not holdable, and I tend to share his opinion. And you can talk about singular mistakes that Wesley has made along the way, but it's just that the MVL, I think, is very, very good at specifically this. Keeping the game afloat, asking small questions with every move. These are skills which are very, very needed if you are to play the Berlin endgame, because your advantages, whatever they are never going to be huge. And a single mistake often just leads to an immediate simplification and game being over.
Right.
And he keeps the game afloat. He keeps making you make moves. Yeah. And eventually people get tired. People start making mistakes. Even very good defenders such as Wesley today. So yeah, I mean, the outline of the game was completely different. There were queens on the board in the opening. It's a lot sharper than the Berlin. But still, there's a definite similarity in the way the game progressed from there. And if MVL wins it, full credit to him, because it's not easy to make Wesley make mistakes in a position like this. For Wesley, he had 4 minutes. He could actually kind of stop and correct himself. Such a mistake when you're playing directly on increment is a lot easier to understand than to do it with 4 minutes on the clock in a position where there's not a lot to calculate. And just from common sense, why are you allowing a7 in every single position? Why is the king on b5?
Right.
That was the final move, and MVL bounced back after that tough loss in round one.
Absolutely. Another remarkable day of 2 wins.
With white.
With white, but 3 draws, and all of the games were big fights.
Yeah. There was also a game between Fabi and Prague, which featured its own spills and shakes, and did end up in a draw, but there was plenty of fight in that one as well.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Thank you for watching, and hope you join us for round 3.
See you tomorrow.